Hi and welcome to this week's Life Lessons video. It's great to be back with you all. This week we're talking all about patience. Do you struggle with accepting uncertainty in your life? Maybe you're always impatient for results. Perhaps you find the concept of being patient boring, frustrating, or even agonizing because you want to take action and want to take control. Well, in this video, we're going to be sharing with you the life-changing magic of practicing patience. Why being impatient is actually holding your life back, and how you can build your patience habit so you can open yourself up to a whole new world of opportunities. Welcome to our Wu Wei Wisdom Life Lessons series. In each episode, we answer your questions, reveal the powerful life lesson, and offer you lots of practical tips and advice to help you live in balance, harmony, and flow. Okay, David, so the question we've had in on this topic is, do you have any advice on how to practice patience and how to accept that things aren't going to go my way in the time or way that I would like them to? In my career, I'm very driven, passionate, and an action-orientated person, and I get deeply frustrated and disillusioned when I don't see results. I also find it very uncomfortable to deal with uncertainty of any kind in my relationships or personal life. And being patient feels very counterintuitive and unnatural to me. So this guy who's kindly asked the question is obviously struggling with patience. And Lao Tzu, one of the greatest ancient Taoist teachers, describe patience as one of our three greatest treasures, the other treasures being simplicity and compassion. And certainly for this guy, he says he's frustrated, he's disillusioned, he feels very uncomfortable. His impatience is creating a lot of uncomfortable pain for what we call red light feelings for him. So can we begin with talking about why being impatient is a bad thing?
Well, I think it's one little level down as well. It's what I call the words you use are the bricks that build the house you live in. So if you can kind of resonate with this guy here, I would ask, if you were my client, I would ask, what does patience mean to you? How do you define that word? And in my experience working with clients on these type of issues, patience is a negative. It takes them right back to their childhood. It takes them right back to where their parents used to say, oh, you always want too much. You've got to be patient. And they immediately put the connotation, the definition of patience, meaning you can't get things done. You can't have things the way that you want them. You can't do this. You can't do that. So they define the word patience as a negative right at the beginning. So the whole concept of being patient is not something that they're going to go into, because it means they're not going to get their own way, basically. That's how they see it. And so you can see that this question, when we start to unpick it like we do, will definitely be the inner child work. And so I would always say, when you get pushback, when you get resistance on a word, such as patience, just sit quietly, like we've done in other videos, and drop your shoulders and take a breath, and just kind of imagine what that word, what images that conjures up to you. I would almost say conjures up images of your parents saying, you can't do what you want to do.
Hold on, step back. It's going to happen in my time, not your time. You've got to wait till Christmas for this to happen, and I think certainly as children, we're very focused on results. We want to see what we want. We want what we want, and we want it now. We want it now. And I guess we carry that with us into adulthood, because our society certainly encourages getting results, achieving results. It encourages us to focus on the end goal and having it as quickly as possible. This kind of consumerist society, instant gratification, fuels impatience, because it's like, well, why should I have to wait? I don't like this process of uncertainty. I don't like this process of delay. I want the results when I want them, how I want them, as soon as possible.
And there's the problem.
That's the problem.
And that's the problem. Alex has just described the problem. What your belief system, if that's you that Alex has just described, I'm sorry, that's not the reality that we live in. The world does not revolve around you, your timetable, what you want and how you want it and when you want it. Now, you could call that uncertainty. I call that reality. That's the reality of the world we live in. And that really, for me, is what spirituality is. It's about understanding that we live in this universe of reality and we have to harmonize and go with it. When I work with clients on this, I don't get this much, but I did get it a couple of months ago. I would ask them to consider looking at the word patience. And what we decided when I was working with a client, a better word would be appropriateness. So rather than having to be patient, act appropriately in situations. So sometimes it's good to give it a push and give it a kick up the backside, and that's fine, that's good, that's appropriate. But sometimes, you have to allow things to develop. By keep pulling up the roots of a plant to make sure the roots are healthy, that's not going to help the plant grow. So sometimes you have to allow the plant to grow in its own time. Rushing it or forcing it actually makes the plant unhealthy. And so the teaching would be, rather than patience or being impatient, is to have a good judgment of what's appropriate in that situation.
Because a lot of people think being patient means doing nothing, like not interacting or, just expecting miracles to happen. Because a lot of people they're quite willing to put in the effort, but it's almost like they're pushing too hard.
Exactly.
And I think for me, I kind of believe it's to do with just totally focusing on the end goal and not appreciating that there is a process here, and we can actually also enjoy the process. The joy is not only to be found, the green light feelings of joy, inner peace, calm, excitement, satisfaction are not only to be found in the resolution or the achievement of the end goal or the certainty of the outcome. The green light feelings are also to be found in the process and, learning to deal with uncertainty, learning to step back and not always to push or grasp for resolution can be a positive.
Well, you've said a number of things there which are really important. And one of the things you said about uncertainty, it's the acceptance, and here's a big Taoist word, the acceptance that we do live in a universe of uncertainty. We don't know. We can't absolutely concrete the future to be the way that you want it to be. And so if that concept is difficult for you to accept, then that's something you've got to sit quietly with and meditate through, or bring it to the community, to our Facebook community, so we can all talk about it, because that's a belief that you have, and that's a belief that you have to examine. Another thing you said, and it reminded me of a great Taoist teaching, just because the stream disappears underground doesn't mean the stream has stopped running, because many times the stream disappears underground and then it pops up again just farther down the hill. And we would put it in our terminology, ducks take a long time to get lined up. You can't always line up the ducks when you want them to, because they're ducks and they go their own way. And sometimes we have to allow a situation to mature, to grow, because on Monday it might be really difficult. On Friday, things have changed, and things behind the scenes that you don't even realize, the energy has changed. And that's what I mean about appropriateness. Appropriateness is very important, to have a wider view. How many times do we talk in these videos about changing your perception so you can see the whole of the picture? You're not just focused on, this has got to happen today. I've got to have this phone call. I've got to tick this box. I've got to do this today. It's just stepping back and dropping your shoulders a little bit, taking a breath. And asking yourself, is my timetable the same timetable as the universe? Am I in control here, or should I just go with the flow? And you see me using all these words I use all the time. I'm trying not to use the river, but I've got to do it. It's like the river flowing down.
Yeah. So I like this concept of, it's almost like being impatient narrows our focus totally down onto a specific end goal that we've decided it's going to be in this way
that we've decided
at this time, which is the reality is 0.001% chance that things will happen in the way you want it when you want it. But we're fixated with impatience. We become fixated on the unrealistic. And in doing that, we don't have a wider gaze, as you suggest, and open ourselves up to all the possible opportunities,
Absolutely.
Other things going on, other things which can enhance not only the end result, but also enhance our life experience and enjoyment en route to the end result. We're missing all the positive life lessons that we can learn. You know, if you buy into the belief that we are here on earth to learn and grow and experience life in its rich tapestry, if we only focus on that end goal, we're missing out on all the scenery, all the ups and downs, all the beautiful scenery en route. But that thing you said, David, as well, about just because the stream kind of travels underground does not mean it stops flowing. That is so important, because the ego, what we call the human-centered mind or the inner child, likes to see tangible results. It doesn't trust that the universe or life is operating behind the scenes, that things are in progress, even if we don't perceive progress. And I think for me, that is the life-changing magic of being patient or practicing acceptance and patience, is to fully attune to this concept that the universe is working all the time. Just because we don't see progress or don't see the, movement towards the results we want, doesn't mean that things aren't happening. And if we are impatient, we miss that massive potential.
Yeah, that's so true. And there's something else there as well, because the inner child not only wants to see progress, but that part of your mind that we call the inner child wants to be in control of that process. So it's a very subtle change, but it's what they want things happening when they want it to happen, at the timetable that they want, at the hour, at the time they want people to act in their way. So it's all on their timetable. And it's very much the inner child. I sometimes laugh with my clients when we go through this, and I say, it's all about me, me, me. Enough about me. Let's talk about me.
Yeah.
It's all about me, how I want it, how I believe, how I perceive things should roll out. A couple of videos ago, I talked about this torch or this flashlight. And what we want to do is not narrow the gaze. So everything has to fall into your criteria, has to be how you want it. People have to act how you believe they should be. It's not about that. It's about widening that perception, widening that beam, so you can enjoy the journey. We're all on a journey together. We're in this together. You and I, we're in this together. And this is a part of your life. Now, you might perceive this journey in your life as not going the speed you want to. You want things to change. You want things this. You want things that. But how many times in the past have you said that, and you've looked back and you said, oh, I'm glad things worked out the way they worked out. I didn't realize that this was happening. And this is always happening all the time. And so it goes back. When I'm talking about these type of teachings, my mind keeps on going back to this river and stream that we're flowing down in our canoe. And you can fight against the current. You can fight against this flow of chi energy that goes through all of our lives, or you can flow with it. And what Wu Wei wisdom is about learning that different feeling, because these are why feelings are so important. So if impatience creates a red light, you're going against the flow. You're forcing against the energy instead of dropping your shoulders and going with the flow, because I will guarantee you there will always be opportunities coming up. Difficult situations, dead ends that you don't think you can get out of. You always have got it. You always will get out of it because you've always got out of it, because you can cope.
And so the inner child definitely is involved in this process,
Definitely
because you know, the child wants excitement. It doesn't like things to be boring. So sometimes when we have to wait and just step back and pause,
It's boring.
it finds it boring. It wants excitement. It has very strong expectations, very black and white expectations. Things have to be this way and not that way. Things need to happen in this time, not that time. And as you say, most importantly, it dislikes uncertainty. And sometimes we have to practice patience. We have to step back. We have to pause and wait in this period of the unknown. The inner child always wants to rush for a resolution, for a known outcome, because it hates this kind of, what's happening. I'm waiting here. I can't see any progress. I can't tangibly grasp progress. So it hates that. And then that's why, rather than learning life lessons, learning new things, experiencing joy, ups and downs, excitement, experiencing flow, we experience frustration. We get bored. We may feel the situation or believe the situation is hopeless. And then for a lot of people, if they're working towards a goal or an intention, they just give up. So you've lost both ways. You've not enjoyed the process, and then you've not reached your intention or your goal.
And it's true, because I asked my own child, my physical child once, because he always used to say, "Oh, I'm bored." And I'd say, what does bored mean? Explain bored. Well, I want things to happen. And I think this word bored, as Alex said, and I think it's the same as fair or unfair or just, it's not right, I want it that way. And this is the inner child really wanting to grasp life and have life the way that it wants it to be. So it's your inner child that you're listening to. And it's basically saying, I want things the way I want them to be on the timetable that I want them to be. So again, go back to what I said at the beginning. If patience is something like this gentleman, then think of what the word patience conjures up in your mind. What images, what memories, where does it take you back to? I will almost guarantee it will take you back to a time when your parents or guardians were saying you couldn't do something. Be patient. It'll work out. You can't have it when you want it, and it's not all about you. And those are, for a child, very restrictive ways of being. And I think this is what this gentleman is saying. He's saying, David, please help me, because life isn't the way that I want it to be. Yeah. I'm sorry, life is not the way you want it to be. Well, you have to, and that then goes on to acceptance. And then the inner child goes, well, I'm not going to accept that. I'm going to kick off, have a temper tantrum, or what we call a squealing piglet. I'm going to kick off, and then I'll get my own way. And that's normally what some of these red lights around this is your inner child having a squealing piglet because it wants things to change. It wants things the way that it wants it to be. And if it doesn't get it the way it wants it to be, it's going to kick off. And that's where reparenting the inner child is so important. We've done some videos on reparenting the inner child, learning how to be at peace with yourself. Learning how to find that balance in you. This is not your enemy. This is not a monster. This is not something that's out of control. This is like a 6-7-year-old having a bit of a strop. And you've got to learn to drop your shoulders and see it for what it is. Because you can't change the reality. But guess what you can change? You can change your beliefs because they're yours. No one else's. So as I say in all of my videos, or what do you believe? Or why do you believe it? Very important. What do you believe about the pace of life? Do you actually believe that things should be on your timetable? These are very important questions, and for you to sit quietly in a meditation and to think about.
I think you're so right, David, because if we can learn, well, you've suggested several things there. You've talked about examining what you actually associate with the concept or the word patience. Are they negative associations brought with you from childhood? Have you learned acceptance? Do you accept that you can't control everything? We've talked about expectations, about being realistic about your expectations, and make sure that your expectations aren't sapping the joy out of the process.
And appropriateness. I think appropriateness, we don't talk enough about appropriateness. What's the appropriate action at the appropriate time? And appropriateness for me is a very powerful concept because it puts you in control. And this is what I always want in these videos, is for you to be in control. So knowing what's appropriate, because quite rightly, sometimes things do need a shake up. There's nothing wrong in that. Quite rightly, sometimes it needs somebody
to take action.
Exactly.
So it's about finding the balance.
That's it.
So you're talking about knowing, judging, being able to develop the skill of judgment to know when to act and take action and when to pause and step back and wait for things to become a little bit clearer.
Right.
Wait for the path to show itself a little bit more obviously. And that's an amazing skill to be able to develop, and it's different, that difference between action and non-action, so wu wei, the difference between the two is we have to judge that on a case-by-case basis, on a situation-by-situation basis. But if we can get our inner child and human-centered mind expectations and demands out of the equation, that allows us to develop that skill of judgment and discernment as to appropriate action or non-action.
And what the superpower for what, as Alex has just said, we've done several videos on it. This is your sensitivity. Yeah. Remember, we've talked about this lots of times. You keep on saying, don't you, I'm a sensitive person. Yeah. Sensitivity is the key to know when to act and when not to act. Yeah. That's your sensitivity, to be able to address all of the situations you see. You've got this, haven't you? How many times have you said to yourself, I'm really sensitive? This is when you use sensitivity appropriately. You know when to push, you know when to take a breath and to step back. Another important thing, if you go right down to the root, we call our model Wu Wei wisdom. Wu Wei, what does Wu Wei mean? Effortless effort. Yeah. Think about that. Effortless effort. So you're giving an effort, but you're doing it easily. If you play a sport like tennis or golf or anything, you know that time when you hit the ball and it's just in that sweet spot. It's almost like you don't have to hit it hard. It just hits it right. And that's what we're looking for in life. That you live your life in that effortless effort. You know when to put the pressure on. You know when to step back. And that's why I know you can do this, because you are sensitive.
And by contrast to what you've said, that sensitive attunement to the situations, how to approach each situation, like you say, swinging the bat in a game of tennis. It's an ebb and a flow. It's not going at stuff full blast all the time, regardless of the situation. That shows no discernment. So, we're not saying don't take action, but we're saying take action when it's appropriate to take action. Pause when it's appropriate to take action. Because to reach your intention or your end goal, it's not a straight line. No. It's a kind of a zigzag line. And accepting that you will make mistakes along the way. Mistakes are part of the journey to the end destination.
Well, also, mistakes, if you want to call them mistakes, is the only way that human beings learn.
Yeah.
We only learn by getting things wrong. And that's why I say in all of these videos, getting something wrong is not wrong. It's okay to get things wrong. What's the problem is if you keep on getting the same thing wrong, you haven't learned the lesson. But getting something wrong and then sitting back and being discerning, as Alex said, lovely word, discerning. So why did I misjudge that? And then that's your knowledge. Because this journey, Alex said zigzag. I would prefer a more smooth flow. This journey is about learning. We only learn by getting things wrong. We get something wrong, we misjudge it. We sit back, we think about why we misjudge it. Perhaps we didn't push hard enough. Perhaps we pushed too hard. And that is this flow, this effortless effort. We're looking for this sweet spot. Everything we talk about in these videos is you being in your sweet spot, not swinging the pendulum to the red light, not swinging it to the both sides, because both of those extremes are red lights. They're telling you you're at the extreme. We want you in the sweet spot, in the center.
And so patience is an essential part of this Wu Wei wisdom approach to life, because I think a misunderstanding for a lot of people is that a lot of people think there's value in being impatient because it means taking action, getting results, and that the same people label patience as constantly waiting, hesitating, not taking any action. And actually neither of those are true or correct. Patience is essential as part of the ebb and flow of Wu Wei. It's seeing the global picture, which is kind of where we started out, broadening
That's what
the
I just
view.
said. We've come kind of right round. And really the answer to this is, if patience is something that kind of causes resistance, then sit down and perhaps even write down in your journal or on a note, how do I define patience? What do I actually mean when I say patience? And I think that will be your breakthrough.
And David, one last thing I wanted to touch upon. I know what fuels a lot of people's impatience or unwillingness to pause and just observe and wait for things to become clearer or wait for things to evolve in their own time is the comparing, the criticizing, the judging them of themselves to other people, what we call the CCJ. And if your human-centered mind or your inner child is also operating on the CCJ system, you will find it very difficult to operate in this Wu Wei flow where patience is integral to it, because you're saying, okay, well, I know I need to wait and pause here, but I'm looking at them and look how much they've achieved already, and they started after me, and then that sends you off track. That totally connects you back to your ego, your human-centered mind, and disconnects you away from your sensitivity, your discernment, your appropriateness, all those beautiful qualities we've talked about.
Well, CCJ, we've talked about it, haven't we? So this is criticizing, comparing, and being judgmental about yourself and about other people. Now, take a moment and you'll be amazed. Just after this video, go through the next few hours and see how many times you criticize yourself or other people, compare yourself and other people, or be judgmental about them or yourself. Now, if you're doing this at all in the next 2 or 3 hours, in that moment, your inner child is in control. You are not in control. It's like, I know you're intelligent. I know you can do all these things, but I've got to tell you, emotionally, there's an 8-year-old at the controls and they're running your life. And therefore, when they hit something where it's discerning just to step back and let things develop, your inner child will not want to do that, because as Alex said, they will be looking and saying, well, look, they bought the house the same. Oh, they started in the company the same as me and they're doing better. Oh, look at them. Oh, look at them. They shouldn't be doing this. Or I'm better than them or something. And I never understand this. And a lot of my clients said, well, it drives me on, David. If I don't compare myself, if I'm not judgmental, it drives me on. It doesn't. It keeps you. You're walking in their footsteps. You are giving up control of your life.
Yeah.
The number one thing that you want, you're doing the opposite because you're following their path now. Your path is unique to you. This is what we're talking about, being discerning, finding your flow, finding your rhythm, finding your effortless effort, being in your sweet spot. This is, I joked earlier, me, enough about me, let's talk about me. Let's talk about you in the correct, balanced way. When you look at other people, you're not talking about you, you're talking about them. And you're comparing yourself. You can never be, you're just following their footsteps. It's like climbing a mountain and you're hitching yourself to them instead of climbing your mountain. This is nonsense. This is a completely wrong way of thinking. And if patience gives you this resistance, this pushback, then I'm sorry, you've got to dig a bit deeper, because the word brings on all of these things that we've talked about in this video. But the good news is you can change this because you're in control, and it's your belief system. And here's another thing. Your belief system we talk about on all of these videos. Make sure it's your belief system. Make sure it's not something you've inherited off your parents or off your neighbor or off someone else. What do you believe? Why do you believe it? Make sure your belief system is your belief system. And this is what this question of patience has all been about. Make sure that you're in control. Make sure that you're in your flow. Make sure that your effortless effort. And remember, you are awesome. Above anything, you are awesome. There is no other person in you, like you, in the universe. So following someone else is nonsensical. It doesn't make sense.
Brilliant. Thank you, David. Well, I hope we've given you plenty of things to think about there in terms of reframing what patience means to you, learning acceptance, appreciating that there are things happening in the universe all the time. There is progress being made, even if we can't appreciate it, even if it's not tangible. Understanding that the journey is as valuable, if not more valuable, than the end destination. And really, as David said, connecting to your sensitivity, learning appropriateness, learning discernment, learning the wu-wei flow between action and non-action, and how valuable patience can be as part of that process and journey. If you have enjoyed this video, or if you'd like to share your own personal experiences on this topic, please do comment below. You know, we'd love to hear from you. Share with us your biggest takeaways. Again, we're all in this together, and we want you to learn and grow with us. If you've enjoyed the video, please do share it with someone else who you think would also benefit from it. If you want to explore this topic deeper with David, if you believe that impatience and any of the qualities we've talked about are holding you back in your life, David does one-to-one sessions with clients all over the world by video call, and I will put a link in the description below so you can learn more about that. And finally, if you're new to our channel, we produce new videos every week, so please do subscribe and click the bell notifications button so you receive a little email notification every time we produce a new video. We look forward to seeing you again very soon. Bye-bye.